I'm writing a book. Today I have my bullet points right here, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about it. First question, why write a book? Red Hat Factory, to me at least, has always been about sharing a story from my country, my heritage, and where these beanies came from. I've shared that story all over the place, a little bit in different blog posts. Especially I've done this like every year-ish. I've done like a recap of the year. But also different drops of story you've heard everywhere. Sometimes it comes out on Instagram, sometimes it comes in a longer YouTube video. And now that we're approaching our 10-year anniversary in 2026, I want to write a book, which is actually, the first couple of drafts are actually kind of finished, but it's still going to take a long time before it's actually finished. So basically I'm taking all these stories that I've told here and there, and I'm tying it together into one coherent narrative. I'll tell more about the story later. But first, I just want to say that my role in this company since the beginning has been to tell the story of the brand. So for me personally, it's great to write a book in order to gather all these thoughts about what the story is, what kind of things in our story and family story is relevant to the brand, and tie it all together. It helps me how I'm gonna think about the brand. But then as I've been working on that, I find out it makes for a nice story. A lot of you have followed these bits and pieces of story, and you love that part of the brand. So I believe at least some of you will be interested in reading the full story, sort of. It's also a great time to write the story because since the start, I've always struggled to get this thing up and running. And now, the last couple of years has been more about stabilizing what's already functioning. And now I feel like it has reached a stage. This is part of running the company from home. You cannot get away from that. So my son was making a lot of noise in the morning, one of these mornings. And then I met my neighbor outside the door, and I asked him like, "Oh, I'm sorry that we're waking you up so much in the morning." And this guy in the neighbor house said, the sound of a baby crying is the sound of life itself. Something really poetic like that. And that made me, that gave me a boost in the faith in humanity. That was a small random story. Now it's quiet out there. Let's move on. Yeah, we sort of stabilized the company now. It's working. It's ticking, and then it's a little bit. What's next? How are we going to expand this thing? And the book is a lot about that. It's about the whole journey, and about what we're going to do next. And for me, a process also to sort of boil the whole thing down to what we want to expand into. But that brings it right into the next point, which is what sort of story is it? So you can definitely see I'm nervous, which is true. I think I'm nervous because writing is what means most to me. So when I'm doing this, there are two risks involved. Risk number one, which is probably the most likely to happen, is that nobody cares and nobody will ever care. And then I finish the book and one person gets it, which I'm ready for that. You're gonna come along with me for this journey, and we're gonna see where it goes. And I would rather be the person who have tried something than the person who didn't dare to try. Which is also a part of what's inside of the book. So the way I describe the story, that was just my first note. Maybe the tagline will change as we move on with this project. But I described it as a rags to riches story But the rags are chaotic incompetence, clad in passion, and the riches is succeeding in turning these churning dreams into a sustainable brand. Which it's not supposed to mean sustainable like, you know, the natural sustaining nature part, which we also definitely want to do, but I just mean sustainable as taking it from dreams to something that actually functions, and we can pay our employees and stuff, you know, to keep it running. I tell the story from the day knitting entered our family, all the way till we reached a healthy, sustainable place and had sold thousands of beanies all over the world. But the whole story from beginning to end is inundated with love for the Norwegian outdoors. So the story is actually going to start when we're out in nature as a kid, and sort of that love for the outdoors that you've seen through the brand, how that started, and for me personally. But you can read more about this on the website. At the end of this video, I will read you a preview of chapter 1, which might change, but you'll get some of it. So what this is all about, because it's coming out in a year, I actually want you part of the journey, you know? We will have, you can sign up below, and you can join, like you'll tick a little box in my newsletter system, so I know that you're interested in the book, and then I will send you updates, however, as the book is progressing. This is my worst day. This is my worst day of speaking in front of the camera. For some reason, I just feel awkward today. Let's go to the preview of chapter 1. By the way, I love writing this. Writing this. I might be terrible talking with my mouth, but when I can type, I feel like it's just flowing. I love it. I love it a lot. So this first chapter is called Head Over Hills. And and then it says 2005 to 2006. And it goes like this. Let's try this. There are 2 types of core memories. One that's so deeply ingrained in you that you don't even see it. All your thinking is filtered through it. Your life experience is seen through that lens ever after the memory was written into your core. But there's a second type that lives vividly in your memory. It owns its own room, and you can go and visit it whenever you want. One such memory to me is the moment I fell head over heels in love with the mountains. My dad had filled up the old dark blue Volkswagen Caravelle with people. In the back seat sat my brother, 2 of my childhood friends, and in the front my dad and his friend. We had been up and driving before the sun. I had my old Canon DM-FV 400 camcorder with me, something that I had spent all my savings on. Having been captivated by the Lord of the Rings movies and their accompanying hours upon hours of behind-the-scenes footage, filmmaking was all I wanted to do at the time. The goal for this 2005 trip was the Pulpit Rock, a triangular cliff poking out of a sheer cliff face overlooking Lysefjord. You might have seen it. It's one of the more iconic and oft depicted features of Norway. Lysefjord is the nearest fjord to where I grew up, and the nearest spectacle of that magnitude. It is iconic in the sense that it is more bare than any other fjord, and some of its cliff faces rise about a kilometer completely vertically. Years later, I did some digging into the history of the name, which, if you know me, is something I tend to do, and I found a few things of interest. The word fjord is related to ford, shallow place to cross a river, since they both harken back to Proto-Indo-European pertus, which means crossing. And the reason suggested by several sources is that the fjords were used as waterways by the Vikings. Thus, the fjord was the means of crossing over between different settlements. And secondly, the Lyse part of the name means light. So I took it upon myself to paraphrase the name to something like Path to Light or the Path of Lights. It's just something I find fun to play with words, and it suits my experience with the place really well. At this time, I had never been there. I had only a vague picture swimming in my mind and a sense of finally being heading out on my own Lord of the Rings-esque adventure. I was Frodo, being pulled out the door by my quiet and mysterious wizard dad. And ahead of me, in the distance, it seemed a vague light was shining. Some sense that if I just got to the other side of the path to light, I would be illuminated. I would feel and experience things that I could now only dream of. I was young and impressionable, and, as you understand, very emotionally invested in nature. Rather than following the E39 to Stavanger, the quick but featureless journey, my dad had steered us elsewhere. There's an alternative route, a little bit longer but a whole lot more adventurous. You start by cutting straight northward into the land from the south coast, heading up Setesdal. And when you've held your direction for about 3 hours, you turn straight westward and instantly begin ascending the great mountain plains between central and western Norway. Starts off with a 10% incline, and soon enough, you have to blow your nose to depressurize your ears. The old Volkswagen was already struggling, but I'll not keep you in tension. It held all the way, though with a few hiccups. Okay, that's the first part. If that was somewhat interesting, you're gonna like the rest of the book. I can't read the rest of this now, but it goes on to tease that on this first journey in 2005 and then a following journey in 2006, we traveled through a certain landscape that had a secret that I wouldn't uncover until I had started Red Hat Factory like 10 years later. And then when we were back there later, I knew the secret, and the secret will also come out in the book. There's a lot of seeds in this introduction that will pay off later. I'm very excited to write this. I hope some of you find it slightly interesting that I am writing this, or that you would like to read this. I'm rambling so much today. It's terrible. As part of the project of releasing this book, I would every now and then make a video essay on YouTube. That's just a subject that I pull from the book and make a little video essay on it that somehow relates to the brand, something about heritage, something about honoring the generations before us, or something about Norwegian nature, something relevant to the book. And that will be part of a sort of a long-term marketing campaign / the journey of the book. So now, if you care about that, I even dropped the phone. If you care about that, now you know why I'm pushing more of those kind of videos. So, well. I think that was the end of the video.